I'm going to be doing a beginner's full leg demo for you guys today. So let's start off with positioning our client. I like to have them bend at the knee when I'm cleansing, and this just makes it easier to get front and back both at the same time. Right now we're not going to be focusing on speed as a beginner, but we do want to set up these good little habits that will help speed in the future as you get faster. Right now we're really going to be focusing on technique, and speed will come, but little habits like this that you can start implementing now will help you in the long run to become faster and not waste too much time on these little things. But cleansing is super important. Make sure you're getting everywhere. Second step is going to be a pre-wax oil. So don't skimp on this. You really want to get it everywhere, especially those areas that tend to be a little bit extra dry, which is knees. And for this client of mine, she's been coming to me for a while, and I know that her lower legs tend to be a little bit dry as well. So don't skimp on the oil. After you oil, you can see there's shine on the skin, so we don't want to see that when it's time to start applying our wax, or it's going to roll off and not adhere correctly. So we got it on there. Now we're going to use a paper towel. I like using paper towels because it's a little bit exfoliating at the same time, but we're just going to wipe away any of that excess shine that we see. All right, now that she's prepped, we will begin. So for beginner waxing of full legs, I like to start with the knee, and we actually break it up into 3 different sections. So we're going to start with the outside, we'll do the inside, and then we'll go straight over the top. So the biggest thing is your patterns. You want to make sure that you have good patterns that you follow every single time. It's just going to make the process a lot easier. So we're starting with the outer knee, making sure you're staying on your edge, meaning we're not laying our stick flat. Okay, and I like to go over a couple times. I know with my client that I have here that her skin is a little bit drier, so that's when you can start running into the issue of your wax strips breaking on you. So since I know that, my first pass is always going to be lots of pressure, a thinner strip, and then I come back and thicken it up to make sure that the removal is easier for me. We're going to do the outside of the other knee. So with patterns, what you do to one side, you're going to do to the other. It just helps keep you on track and know where you've been, where you're going. Little grip here. See, the wax is already wanting to break on me, so I'm just going to move a little bit quicker. Make sure you put immediate pressure afterwards. All right, now we're going to work on the inner knee. Another little side note is a lot of times I see in these like esthetician Facebook groups and stuff, people blaming the wax when a lot of times it can be poor prep or poor home care and prep on the client's part as well. So it's really important that we're educating our clients on how to properly prep for their wax so that we're not running into as many issues with the wax strips not setting. Get a little grip here. Making sure we're always removing parallel to the skin. No lifting and pulling away. Grip. Immediate pressure. So the top of the kneecap can be a little weird. So we want to deposit our wax and then go on the side, keeping on our edge. Go straight over the top and work our way over. And we're also making sure that all of these strips overlap with where the previous strip was. So you'll see that this strip is overlapping with where this side strip was and this inner strip was. And I also do like to thicken up the knee a little bit because it is a drier area. So when the skin's dry, what it does is it's actually pulling moisture from the wax itself. That's why it gets rock hard and tends to break on you. So you want to make sure that you're properly prepping your client, but thicken up the strips if you're dealing with breakage issues. Same thing, other side, deposit, pressure, pressure, pressure. Don't be afraid to put pressure. It's not discomfort. There's no discomfort for the client. And it's going to make sure these strips are nice and effective. And don't worry if your strips don't look super pretty. You just want to focus on them being even. Grip here. I like to remove in one. So if this happens, don't worry, just stop, get a grip on that portion. And let me show what we do. So I moved a little slow, so I'm actually going to remove this one so it doesn't sit too long, and then I'll show you what you do when that happens. Right, so if you get stuck like this, what we don't want to do is be picking like this or pulling. It causes discomfort to your client. So we're just going to go ahead and lay a wax strip straight over this. So you just grab a little bit more wax, go right over it, and all is good. Also, make sure not to get in the habit of saying oops or sorry, because to your client, they feel like something wrong is happening. Their mind goes to worst case scenario. So just don't create that habit, especially when you're doing Brazilians and brows. Legs, not as big of a deal, but again, we need to be creating those good habits from the beginning. So I just let it sit for a couple seconds, and you can see it comes right off. Super easy. Now we're going to do a cleanup strip. So for a cleanup strip, I like to just do one instead of separating it into 3 strips. And we're going to go in the opposite direction. And I make sure that I finish one whole area before moving on to a new area. So meaning I'm completely finishing knees before I move on to my next set of patterns. This is going to help you speed up your service and not have a bunch of missed hair that you have to at the end go back and touch up. And in case you're wondering, the wax I'm using is Pink Cream by Rebel, and I mixed in a little bit of our clear unscented as well, just to give it a little bit more of that tackiness. But I really love cream waxes for legs, and especially on clients that tend to be a little bit drier, and it does have a quicker setting time. So it's when you're getting a grip, you want to pinch and do a quick lift. Don't ever pick like this. And if you're having a hard time, just keep trying until you get a little lift. But that quick pull is going to cause less discomfort to your client. All right, so I like to pull in 1, 2, 3, and making sure that we're readjusting as we come around the knee so that we're never lifting and you can create bruising right here. This I'm not going to worry about because I'm going to grab that in the lower leg strip. Same thing, other side. Now we're moving on to lower leg. So I like to put their legs down and then have them kind of point their toes inwards. And I'm going to start with this outside strip here. So now that we're doing a larger strip, we're making sure to grab more wax on our strip. So I didn't mention at the beginning of this video what type of strip it is that we're using for this leg wax. So we're using what's called a large basic. So you want to position the stick like this, thumb up top, and we're scooping. So we're not dipping and twirling, we're scooping. So you scoop and then you twist right under the surface there, so you're building up that wax on both sides of your stick. If you're having a hard time with the wax staying on your stick, turn down the temperature of your pot just a little bit, and that will help keep the wax on your stick a little bit better. So with large basic, we're almost coming about halfway down our stick to make sure we have lots of wax on there so that we're able to create those nice, long, thick, and wide strips. I'm gonna do 1 pass, 2 passes, and then now I'm just going to thicken up that strip for removal purposes. And again, we're making sure that each strip overlaps where the previous one was. So I'm overlapping with that side knee strip, and I'm also bringing it past the hairline onto the ankle, which gives me a better grip when I go to remove. So I'm actually switching up my pattern a little bit and removing this one immediately before laying this one because I just know it's going to break on me. I'm going to remove halfway and then the rest of the way through. All right, now we'll move on to the other side. Now we're doing the other side. So you'll notice I'm actually positioning myself where I'm pushing the strip away from me now rather than pulling towards me. So at home, make sure you're practicing those different positions. I always work from the right side of the bed. I never cross over to the other side, unless maybe for an underarm or brow wax, but it's very rare. I'm always working from this side of the treatment table. So on this side, her right leg, I'm going to be pulling the strips towards me. So you'll see the positioning of my hand. On this side, I'm actually pushing away from me. So now the positioning of my hand has changed. So make sure if you're practicing at home on like a wax pad or a piece of paper that you're doing both of those motions. Get a little grip here. Again, I'm gonna pull halfway, readjust, pull all the way through. Now I'm gonna do the shin, so I'm going to just position her leg straight like this. Kind of start off to the side of the shin, deposit, pressure, 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 pressure. Then I'll go right over the shin, not as much pressure, and then to the side of it, pressure, pressure, pressure. Okay, create our lip, and then we're just gonna thicken up this strip here. And you're gonna wanna adjust the thickness or thinness of your strip based on your client. So thinner the hair, thinner the strip, thicker the hair, thicker the strip. So just again, because I know she tends to be a little bit drier and she does have a decent amount of hair and it's decently thick as well, I do really like to thicken up those strips, and it's just for making removal easier. Deposit, pressure, pressure, pressure on that edge, bringing it down past the hairline. Pressure, pressure. And create our lip, and then just thicken up that strip. So you don't want to see the hair through the strip. That's when you know it's a nice, good, thick strip. Move halfway, and the rest. Making sure we're pulling through the end of the strip, not to the end of the strip. So what I mean is we don't want to go and stop right here, because then oftentimes you get stuck. You want to pretend like this strip is laid all the way up here and we're pulling all the way through. Okay, get a little grip again, halfway, and remove. So now we're gonna do the inner leg. So I'm gonna turn her out this way. And the reason why I have her turn her toes outwards or inwards is because I'm actually getting to the back of the leg a bit from here. So when I have her flip over for the back of the leg, it's super quick and easy because I just have one little racing stripe that will be left behind. So these again are habits that you can start now to help with your speed in the future. Make sure you overlap with that knee strip. Pressure, 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 pressure. Bring it down to the ankle. Create your lip and thicken that sucker up. As you guys probably know by now, same thing, other side. And notice my hand positioning now because I'm working on her left leg. It's really important to get these positionings down and making sure we're continuing to use the correct technique. So being on our edge, using good pressure, super important. You don't ever want to let yourself slack on that. A little grip, grip. Doing cleanup strip, so I'm going to point her toes inwards again, and now we're going backwards. For cleanup strips, I'm only doing 2 because I can make some pretty large strips here. Lots of wax on your stick. Start at the ankle. Pressure, pressure. And I'm really covering a large area now. And I really like to remove these cleanup strips almost immediately when the wax is still tacky. Gives a really great grip and almost like tweezes those last little left behinds. All right, and I'll pull in a couple different sections like this. That tackiness I have found just really helps getting these little leftover guys. So it's not always going to be the prettiest, but it's super effective. This is also why I really like using vinyl gloves versus nitrile, because when all this sticky wax gets on your gloves, if you let it set for a second, it peels right off. So little pro tip, make sure when you're waxing that you're using vinyl gloves. So you can see how large of an area it is that we're covering. You'll also want to make sure that you're stirring consistently throughout your service, or else the wax up top here is going to start to set and get really gummy and not be at the right temperature. So just throughout the service, maybe every couple strips, I like to pull from the sides like this, because all this wax around where the heating mechanism is going to be the warmer wax. Then you kind of fold it in like this so you have nice consistent temperature through your entire pot. Get a little grip. I waited a little longer, so I'm going to be a little careful about this one. There we go. All right, now we're gonna reposition her toes outward so we can get these inner cleanup strips. Deposit our wax, pressure, pressure, pressure. Can we all just take a moment to admire the beauty of this wax? This is our newest blend. It's the same formula as our coconut cream, but it's pink, of course. It smells like the blue gummy wax if you guys have tried that. So it's like a true bubblegum wax, and I have been absolutely loving it. Deposit, pressure, pressure, pressure. You guys sick of hearing me saying pressure yet? Get used to it because I will not stop. It is so important. So I just want to make sure that this is all even and connected. If I didn't have all this wax down here to use to connect that, you can just go back in your pot, grab a little bit more wax. The reason being, when I go to remove, that could create a seam and end up splitting the strip. And we don't want that. This does not hurt the client pulling slower like that because she doesn't have a ton of hair left behind. And each section I'm pulling is still a decently quick pull. I'm just doing smaller sections at a time. What do we do if we didn't create a good lip? So if you try a few times, oh, well, I got it up. But let me show you what we would do if I wasn't able to get that up. And the reason why I was still able to get that up is because I use this pinch method. So we don't want to pinch like this because that's painful. But if you use the whole side of your thumb, it doesn't hurt the client at all, and you're able to get a good little grip. But let me show you another option too if you just can't get the strip up. I dipped into my pot, got a little bit of wax. You don't want to use this though because it will end up depositing that wax onto the client. So I kind of wipe it off so that now I just have a sticky stick here. You come right to the edge and then you can get a little lift this way. I see too many people do this and lay their stick flat. That's not going to help. You want to go like this on your edge. Right when you get to the end there, you do this quick little flicking motion. Lift here. So I waited a little long, so that's why it is breaking here. So you can just go through, and then a lot of times I'll just rip that off, and then I'll show you how to get that off. So this happened for a couple reasons. I waited too long to remove it, and my strip was not laid evenly. So this is that seam that I was talking about. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just remove in the opposite direction just to try to get that wax off, and then I'll lay a new strip. This, I'm not going to worry about picking it and pulling it. I don't want to cause the client discomfort. So again, just like the technique I showed you on the knee, we're just going to lay a strip right over the top of that. So we're just focusing on this little area here. Just lay right over the top of that. Create your lip, and then we'll give it a few seconds. So if there's any downtime while I'm waiting, I'll go around and just start doing little cleanups like this. So it makes it a lot easier at the end of the service. Our client's already nice and cleaned up. So the stick that I just used to apply that strip is nice and sticky now. So you'll just use that, and it picks up all this little residue. I see some over here. So that's something you never want to be standing around not doing anything. You either want to be laying a strip, removing a strip, or cleaning up. Ready to go. Easy peasy. Right, now we will move on to upper thigh. For thigh or upper leg, I like to again have my client bend at the knee, and then I'm going to start on the side, and I kind of rotate them this way. We're going to do a large side strip here. So I don't like to reposition my client too much throughout the service, so I'm going to actually just do this strip and do one at a time. So I'm going to do this, and then we'll do a cleanup strip before repositioning her to the other side. And I overlapped with where that knee strip was. I'm going to pull halfway, and then the rest of the way. For those bigger strips, I like to use two hands just so that it's not splitting down the middle. All right, now we're going to do a cleanup. Cleanup strips are always going to go in the opposite direction. Lots of pressure. Grip here. Again, I like to use two hands, and we're going to pull in a couple different sections. So pretty. Same thing on the other side, so we're going to rotate this way. Again, doing this positioning, it's allowing me to cover a large area, and I'm kind of circling onto the back of the leg as well. So you'll see how easy that makes the end of the service once we have her flip over. I'm actually down here and pulling towards me. Pressure, 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 pressure. So I actually do this in 3 passes to make that nice big strip. And since we're only doing 1 at a time, you don't have to thicken it up quite as much because I'm not laying a second strip. So I'm actually going to be removing this almost immediately. So you don't need it quite as thick, and you shouldn't have an issue with breakage. Strip here. Okay, so if this happens too, what you can do is just reconnect it. So get it to its even. Go in opposite direction. Pressure on that edge, moving that wax really well. Create a nice lip at the end. Make sure everything is nice and even. Remove when it's still tacky on these cleanup strips. Perfect. I'm going to work on the rest of the leg. So I'm going to have her positioned straight like this. I like to keep the knee bent still, even though I'm working on the top of the leg, and you can choose to lay their legs flat, but it helps to hold this skin really nice and taut. So I prefer this way, but let me do both. So I'll do 1 down and 1 up so you guys can kind of see, and then you can make the decision on what works best for you. So we're going straight down the top here, going right to the top of that knee. So the reason why I don't love with their leg down is that it creates a little bit looser skin on the knee here. So it's getting the grip for removal that can be a little bit challenging. So let me show you what it looks like laying a strip with the knee bent. Okay, so we're still going in the same direction. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Making sure I'm overlapping with where that side strip was. And we're going to make sure this is nice and even. So it can be kind of weird laying your wax like going upwards like this, but it really helps with the skin being taut, and the removal is going to be so much easier. I use my left hand to hold the skin taut. It just helps you to get that grip. Okay, remove all the way through. Grip. So a little quick tip, if you need to change gloves in the middle of your service, your hands are going to be a little sticky and it's hard to get those vinyl gloves on. So this is pretty much one of the only reasons why I have baby powder and use baby powder. If you guys have been following me for any amount of time, you know I absolutely hate baby powder for prepping, but I love it for this reason. So just put a little bit on your hand, make sure to pour it over the trash can so you don't have powder everywhere, and then it makes getting your gloves on super, super quick and easy. All right, I'm gonna do a cleanup strip up top here, so I'm actually gonna lay both legs down for this part. Opposite direction, lots of pressure, covering a nice big area here. I'm gonna move quickly to do the other side. Also, another thing you can do is if your lip is still sticky but the rest of your strip's ready, you can use the previous strip to stick it on there, and it gives you a nice little grip without getting all that wax on your hands. And if you have leftover like that, just stick into it and it will normally come right off. Unless I'm filming a educational video, it will not. I'm just gonna use this little technique to get that little stubborn piece that did not want to come off. All right, now we're gonna move to inner thigh. For inner thigh, I actually position in butterfly, similar to when we're doing Brazilian. We need to be making sure we're laying the strips in the direction of the hair growth. Sorry guys, I had a little technical difficulty there, but what we're doing is just laying, I call these tiger stripes, so it's similar to a bikini line strip, and I like to do in the middle on this side, and then I'll actually do the opposite on the other side. Inner one here, and this hair is actually growing downward, so I'm going to readjust the way I am laying my strips to make sure I'm following that hair growth. It's really important that we're holding taut with your non-dominant hand. Get a little lift here and then pull all the way through, making sure you're staying parallel to the skin. Okay. Same thing again. I'm going to do the center tiger stripe here. Always working in opposites. What you do to one side, you do to the other, and then I just flip-flop that. So all we'll have left after these two strips is bikini line. So hold taut, non-dominant hand. I'm not going to worry about this because it's stuck to hair and we're going to be waxing that anyway. Pause it. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Readjust as we're coming around the curve of her leg, making sure we're always keeping on our edge. So super, super important. Now, you don't have to include bikini line if you're in your full leg service if you don't want. I prefer to, and we will be doing a Brazilian as well, so I'm just trying to make sure that we're connecting all the service areas, but that's going to be up to you to decide if you want to include bikini line with full leg or not. Other side. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Hold taut. 1, 2, 3. Just making sure you're readjusting as you go around the curve of her leg. Grip. 1, 2. Pressure. Clean up strips for inner thigh. I don't do the same direction that I did the first time. I actually just go backwards and cover the entire area in one. But if you're just starting out and you're having a harder time making these really big strips, don't be afraid to just do the same original strips, just making sure you're going in the opposite direction. So for this one, you'd go this way and your tiger stripes would go upwards if needed, but test this out. Here. I wish you guys could smell this wax. It smells so good. Just a little side note, Rebel Wax is only scented with essential oil. We don't use any fragrance oils or anything, but this one, I think I mentioned it earlier, smells like bubble gum. I mean, it looks and feels like bubble gum too. It's definitely one of my favorites right now. All right, so we completely finished the front of her leg. Look how nice and clean everything is. So now I'm going to have her flip on over and we will finish up with the back. So now you can see there's so little hair left behind since we did our positions the way we did them up front. There's literally just one strip here. So I'm making sure I'm covering all of it and creating a nice lip here right on the back of the ankle. You can also have them come up on their toes, and that will kind of flex the skin a little bit and make it easier to get a grip when you go to remove. Right down the middle there, using good pressure, making sure I'm going a little bit past the hairline so we're not leaving anything behind, and then create that lip right on the ankle. So I'm a little concerned about breakage here, so let's see what happens. What you can also do is if you can see that it's going to break, just go and add a little bit of wax on top before you pull. Yep. So I'm just gonna rip this off here and then add a little bit more wax. So I like to cover that area first, and then I'll come and connect all this so that I can remove it all in one. That one sits, I want to get this one off quickly so I can avoid breakage. And same thing. So this again happened because I did not create my strips to be nice and even. So this was a thinner section, so it set and got really hard. Don't be discouraged. This isn't an issue that just new waxers run into. It's definitely a common thing to happen during a service. So the biggest thing is just knowing how to get out of it. And knowing how to get out of it without causing any additional discomfort to your client. So don't panic. Don't be hard on yourself when it happens. Still happens to me. You just want to make sure you're prepared and know what to do for when it does. All right, it's ready. Perfect. Now we're going to do cleanup strips. So getting lots of wax on my stick. Going to cover a nice large area going in the opposite direction. So if you guys haven't yet purchased a wax pot, you can see now why I always recommend at least a 5-pound pot if you're doing body services. At the end of this service, I'll show you how much wax we've gone through. So it's really hard to do full legs working out of a 2-pound pot. You really want to have that 5-pounder, or even a 10-pounder would be ideal. I know this strip is going to break on me, so to avoid it, I'm just going to thicken it up. Now we shouldn't have any issues. All right, same thing other side. It's super common to miss ankle hairs, so make sure you're really bringing it all the way down and grabbing all those ankle hairs. And then I'm actually going to grab more wax and thicken up this strip again, just like I did the other. This is another area of the body that tends to be really dry, the back of the legs. Just because oftentimes clients can kind of miss this spot when exfoliating or moisturizing. Besides that, not quite sure why, but I've noticed that just from the years of waxing that knees, back of shins, and the back of the thigh can tend to be a little bit of a drier area. I have to remove. Pull nice and slow. Okay, so if this happens, what I do is I take my strip, I flip it, stick it onto that, and then it should lift right up. And then if there's little left behinds like that too, the part that was not touching skin, I like to kind of stretch it, take it like this, put it on the leftover wax, push in so the warmth of my hand is kind of molding it, and then it will help to remove those little pieces of wax left behind. So for back of thigh, I do a downward strip just right in the middle bottom area here. Laying the lip right on the back of the knee. All right, I'm gonna remove. So the lip was still wet, so I kind of use almost a sugaring technique to get that lift, and then remove. I'm going to use this to help me get a grip on this one. So I just push it into the lip there and remove. All right, now we're going to do some tiger stripes. Tiger stripes, we're going to go inwards. And create your lip. Get a little grip here. Same thing, other side. All right, now we just have this inner part here. This actually is a really good area to just have them on their back and pull knees to chest. So when I do her Brazilian, I'm actually going to do that because it's easy to accidentally lift the skin. If you're not pairing a Brazilian with full leg, then just have on the front, when you're doing the front of the legs, before you have them flip over, which I should have demoed, and I'm sorry for not thinking about that, have them pull knees to chest and just do tiger stripes going inwards. It's gonna pull that skin nice and taut. So now we're just finishing up the service. So I'm going to have her bend at the knee again. And I like to end a full leg service with fur oil. I don't use the ingrown concentrate unless they have a lot of ingrowns. I really just like this oil. It's nice and hydrating. It's a great way to finish off your wax, and it will help combat ingrowns as well, but super hydrating for the skin. So make sure you're applying that everywhere. and you're applying to front and back at the same time. So you guys can see now that we're done with the leg demo how much wax we went through. So I pretty much had this pot filled up all the way to the top. This is our Rebel Wax 5-pound capacity wax pot. So I'd say I used a good like 2.5 pounds of wax on this leg service. So if you're going to be doing body services, make sure you get a large 5 or 10 pound pot. All right, that concludes the leg wax demo. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the comment below, and please don't forget to subscribe.